Hi there, I'm Janet Barkley from Your Organizing Business, the blog where professional organizers and productivity consultants learn and connect. With me today is Linda Samuels of Also Organized, who's also the author of this wonderful book, The Other Side of Organized, Finding Balance Between Chaos and Perfection. Linda helps overwhelmed individuals challenged by disorganization get unstuck and organized through non-judgmental, personalized one-on-one virtual organizing sessions and virtual workshops, as well as publications such as her inspiring blog and her e-newsletter. Linda is also the first person to be named an Ultimate Star Blogger after participating in 100 editions of the Productivity and Organizing Blog Carnival between 2011 and 2023. Way to go, Linda. So Linda has a wealth of experience in the organizing industry, so I asked her to come by and share a few highlights with us. Hi, Linda. Thanks so much for coming today to talk to me.
Always wonderful talking with you, and thanks so much for this honor. I can't believe you've been doing the blog carnival as long as you have, or that I've given 100 posts for that either. You know, it's incredible.
A lot of blogging. So you've actually been in business for over 30 years, is that right?
Right. I
That's
started
amazing.
January of 1992. 1993, sorry, 1993.
Great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So when you started out, what type of training had you taken to become an organizer?
So when I started out, there was no organizing training. So it was totally learning as I go. So I would say that I had identified that I had the skills as an individual to be organized, and that I also understood that there were people that really struggled with being organized. And I felt that it was a teachable skill. So while I was sort of born with that ability, others were not. And when I made that connection, I thought, I think this is a business where I could actually help people. So but as time went on and our industry grew, there were conferences and trainings and classes and books and certification and lots of education, of which I, did all of it, and I continue to.
That's great.
Yeah.
So do you have any type of certifications or?
Absolutely. So I have a lot of my education and training most of it is through ICD, which is the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. I also have training through NAPO and through Coach Approach, but most of my credentials are through ICD. So I'm a certified professional organizer in chronic disorganization, a program mentor, a master trainer, and I've also gotten certified as a virtual organizer. So yeah, and those are just the credential parts, but to do those, there was a lot of classes and books and tests and all these things that went along with it. Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. So things have changed a lot in the organizing world over the last 20, 30 years.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of growth, a lot of recognition. It used to be that, let's say you were out at a party and someone said, "What do you do?" And, you said, "I'm a professional organizer." And they'll go, "What is that?" but now it's more like, "Oh, I could use your help," or, "I'm organized," or whatever, but at least they know what it is most of the time.
Yeah.
But early on, there was, a lot of having to explain the ways that an organizer could help, or, that was not just a known field to be in. So now you have people graduating college going right into organizing. Whereas when I first started, and for a lot of the years, people would have 1, 2, or 3 careers before entering the organizing industry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very big shift. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And how about in your own business? Have there been shifts as well?
Oh, sure. So, when I first started, I think I had like to officially be in business other than getting like a business certificate. I got a business card, letterhead, envelope. That was it. There was no website. I'm now, I think, on the fourth iteration of my website, but there was, I mean, the internet existed, but it wasn't readily available. People weren't using it at that point, the way we use it now. I might have had a home computer, but I'm not even sure that I did at that point. You know, think about, like, look at your business, even how it's all based on computer and virtual work. So that was a huge shift. And maybe one of the biggest shifts is changing from working in person to working virtually. So that change happened during the pandemic, and I completely changed how I do business. But you know, for most of my career, I did work on site with clients, and even when I would do workshops, it was all in person. And now everything's virtual. So I work virtually with clients, which is exciting because it opens up a global, you know, venue, right?
True.
And the same thing for workshops. I can do them, you know, from here, but they could be to anywhere. So
That's exciting.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, technology has really affected, it's really transformed the way all of us do business.
Right.
And I can see
Yeah.
that you have really embraced it, just partly because of your shift to working virtually, the way you market yourself, and just it's amazing. It's great.
Well, it's funny, you know, when you said about marketing, I was thinking how early on, marketing was you'd place an ad somewhere in print, right? In a magazine or newspaper. I don't do that at all now.
You
There
know,
was no social media. And when I think about it, some of when I was learning about social media, which was, I can't remember even at what point that was it 10 years ago, 15? Like, I lose track of time a little bit, but you were actually one of the bigger influences on me because you had adopted it pretty early and you were doing different courses, you know, either at POC or NAPO. I remember hearing you speak about social media, and it was all still very new to me, but you were like one step ahead. So I learned a lot from you coming in.
oh, thanks. It's funny, I personally started blogging after a POC conference when I heard someone else speak about blogging, and sort of I wasn't 100% convinced, but I was convinced enough to give it a try. So who would have thought that I'd become a big fan
And have such a huge community that you've created.
well, yeah, that surprises me all the time. And it's thanks to people like you who are so active in that community and spreading the word and stuff. And I really
You've got
appreciate it.
you have a great following. I mean, there's a bunch of us that are just hardcore. We love going to the blog, you know, every week and sharing each other's work. And it's really, you know, I thank you for that because I think it helps all of us write better, and get out there in different ways. So.
Oh, thank you. I would say someone who has been in business for 30 years is could be considered successful. At what point did you consider yourself to be successful?
So when I was thinking about this idea of success, you know, to me, it's not a single moment, but like a collage of moments that put together, I think, make me feel that way. So probably the first one of those was when I made the choice to leave the security of the industry I'd been in for 10 years, which was the computer graphics industry. I had a job with a weekly paycheck and all the, you know, like benefits, all that. And when I made the decision to leave that to do this full time, and that was risky. And while I don't consider myself someone that takes a lot of risks, I realize that I have taken risks in my life, but I do like security. So that was a scary moment. But at the point that I was, you know, working in the computer graphics industry and doing organizing on the side and was working 7 days a week with two little babies, I'm like, okay, I have to make a decision because this isn't why I started my own business. So when I flipped the switch and I said, I'm going to leave that and take the chance, that was a scary moment, but very quickly it all started to work. You know, like And I think that is often the case, that when you're trying to make a decision about what you want to do, it's that deciding time that creates so much anxiety. But once you say, okay, this is the path I'm going in, this is the direction I'm going, then the opportunities happen. And one of the first things that happened pretty early on, I mean, within that first year, was that some reporters saw an ad that I'd placed, a simple ad, in some little magazine. And they called me up and they said, like, what's an organizer? Like, this is interesting. Can we do an article about you? And I was like, okay, not knowing, like, understanding what that even was going to mean. And they did a great article with photos. They interviewed clients. And that piece, I got so many phone calls and so many clients, not just then, but for years after. People would keep that article, and like, I'd go to their homes and they'd have the article ripped out. And so that was a lesson in teaching me the power of PR. So advertising is one thing, but when someone writes an article about you or shares something about you, or, gives you a testimonial, that is really where it's.
It's going to get a lot more attention and be taken more seriously than an ad, because someone else is saying, hey, this person's worth knowing about.
Right. So that was an interesting lesson. And I never really sought out PR on my own, but because of sort of one thing led to the other, I was often sought out. So that was another, actually, like a success point, being invited to be interviewed in the Times or Wall Street Journal or HuffPost or podcasts, WNYC, all these things. These were, added into that feeling of feeling successful because I was being identified as an expert, so it always was funny to me, but I mean, it was like, what? But okay, great, sure. But I think that was part of it. And then, I think one of the things is that my mission in my business has been always to help people, like people we all have skills and strengths. And one of mine is being organized and being able to see sort of a bigger picture and how you get from where you are to where you want to be. But that's not always easy for people. And so, like, I really enjoy helping people to get there. And so one of the other aspects of feeling successful is not only am I able to do that, but I have a very loyal client base. So I have clients that I've worked with for over 30 years, I'm still working with. And I used to think, oh, gee, that makes me a horrible organizer. But I realized, no, in the demographic that I work with, which are clients that are chronically disorganized, while they can make improvements, as certain things happen in their life, they need adjustments. And so they keep coming back. And so that's, I think, having not just the longevity in business, but also those ongoing relationships with clients. I really appreciate and value that.
It's fantastic. That's a very impressive track record, I have to say.
Yep.
So before I let you go, Linda, do you have any advice that you could share with somebody who's wanting to get started in this industry?
Yeah, so it's such a different industry now than it was. And I think the one part that is really great is how many organizers there are out there. You may think to yourself, well, why is that a good thing? Because it's a huge network of people that have walked the walk or that are in the same spot that you are in, which is starting a new business. So you've got a lot of resources and people that you can talk with and learn from. But in addition, in terms of education, which I think is so important, there's a lot available. So there are tons and tons of books. There are podcasts. There are conferences. And not just, when I first started, there was just like a couple of industry associations. Now there are a lot of industry associations. Prioritizing your education, I think, is key. And then joining the industry associations. So, there might be local associations or national associations. For instance, I know you're from Canada, so there's the Canadian Association, POC. I belong to NAPO, which is, even though it's international, it's based in the US. But I also belong to the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, which is international. But a lot of these organizations also have local chapters. So With NAPO, I'm a national member, but I also belong to the New York chapter, and we have also a local Westchester group of organizers. Because I'm now doing virtual organizing, there are virtual organizing groups that I belong to. So all of these, I think it's really important to be tied in whatever capacity you can. And then I think the other thing is that different than when I first started, where there were mostly generalists, now organizers do tend to specialize. You still might have some that would call themselves generalists, but I think figuring out what you love to do, what your strengths are, and what clients you want to serve, I think that would also be important to identify. And, you know, figure out, you might want to start out as a generalist because you don't know, but if there's something that you really enjoy doing, like maybe you want to do move management, or working with seniors, or financial organizing, or productivity. My specialty is working with clients that are chronically disorganized. I have clients that aren't, but the large percentage of my clients are, and that's a niche market. So again, I think it's worth exploring as you're starting out, networking with other organizers, prioritizing your education, and really figuring out what your niche is, and then growing from there. So
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, and for all the other stuff you shared with us today. It's been really interesting. Even though I've known you a long time, I'm learning new things all the time about you.
well, thank you so much. I always love speaking with you, and it's nice having the time just like this. So thank you, Janet.
So those of you who are watching, if you'd like to connect with Linda, you can connect with her by email or phone. The numbers are on your screen, or on her website, ohsoorganized.com. And you'll definitely want to visit her website to find out information about her next virtual organizing workshop. And you can learn more about Linda on Your Organizing Business. I'll be posting the video there along with a few more questions and answers that we didn't have time for here today. So thanks, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.